Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Parshas Eikev. Let's jump right into it. Last week we had the saddest day of the Jewish calendar, Tisha B'av, and Tisha B'av ends mercifully because it's a horrible day, sitting on the floor. You know, you can't wash yourself, you can't eat or drink. It's miserable. It's supposed to be miserable. That's okay. But at least on the tail end of that, when you're finished with Tisha B'av, you get to go into Shabbos Nachamu. Now, what's Shabbos Nachamu? So the Shabbos that immediately follows Tisha B'av every single year is named after the Haftarah. It's named after the section in the Nevi'im, in the prophets that we read, and that particular section begins Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, which means be consoled, my people. Speak to Yerushalayim and call out to her. It's basically God saying, listen, I love you, I'm not done with you, I'm not going to destroy you. I might give you a Holocaust here and there, but don't worry, you'll always get up again. So it's Shabbos Nachamu. It's a nice consolation. And then after Shabbos Nachamu, the very next week, you get Tu B'Av, which is like, Jewish Valentine's Day. Everyone is all about love, and it's wonderful. And thankfully, we can put all of that horrible death and destruction behind us now, and we can move on, right? Right? Well, it turns out maybe not so much. This is the period of time that we call the Shiv'a de Nechemta, the Seven of Consolation, that every single week now from Tisha B'Av on, we're going to have a haftarah that deals with consolation. And a very simple question might be, wouldn't one Nachamu be enough? I don't have to have 7 haftarahs in a row that all go on the concept of consolation, of Nechama. It's a little bit strange, but anyway, put that on the back of your head in the shelf, and more on that later. So in Parshas Eikev, famously, Moshe decides now would be a really good time to retell the story of the Eigel HaZahav, of the golden calf. Now you say, the golden calf, that's when Moshe goes up on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, and he can't eat, and he can't drink, and he's going to be there with God downloading the Matrix. And while he's doing that, the Jews are all there at the bottom of the mountain dancing around a metal cow. And Hashem does not like this, and Hashem gets very salty, and he says to Moshe, I'm going to destroy these people. They're pretty terrible. Don't worry, I'm going to destroy them, and I'll make you into a great mighty nation. We don't need these Jews. We're going to have the Moshes. We won't be the Yidden, we'll be the Moshes. It'll be great. It'll be wonderful. We can still have payas and hats. It's fine. We don't have to lose any of the accoutrements, but at least I'll be done with this horrible, terrible riffraff. And Moshe davens to Hashem, v'esnapal, and he falls and he prays and he says, don't do that. And what would the Egyptians say? Which, by the way, is really funny because you read in the Torah, why doesn't God destroy the Jews? Because Moshe's like, well, what would the Goyim think? Everyone's going to think that you took the Jews out because you hate them and you want to kill them in the desert, which is, honestly, it sounds a little bit hilarious because who cares? Who cares what the Hittites and the Amorites and the Chivim are going to say about why you killed the Jews? It's very strange. And yet Moshe seems to kind of manipulate God over, Pen Yomru Mitzrayim. The Egyptians are going to say that God didn't have enough power. Very strange. Very strange things. What the real issue is, you've already said this way back in the book of Shemos, right? That was the second book in Parshas Kisisa. So why are you telling me again in the end, midway, I suppose, through the 5th book in Devarim, in Deuteronomy? Why are you retelling me this story? And Moshe says, and Hashem gave me the luchot, the tablets, and he said, get out of here because they built the Eigel, and I smashed the luchos, and I prayed to Hashem to please forgive you, and then I came down and I took the Eigel, I took the golden calf, and I burned it. I burned it and I ground it until it was fine like dirt, and I put it in the water and everybody had to drink. This, of course, we know again all the way back from Kisi, so that's not new. That he took the Eigel HaZahav, he took the golden calf, he ground it up, he put it in the water in the water source, and everybody drank it. And then kind of like the sota, if you're familiar with Parshas Naso, with the idea of the sota, the Jews who worship the Eigel exploded like a sota, which again is so hard to understand why that would be. But sure enough, that's what he says. Now listen to this pasuk; it's unbelievable. It's on page 988. And this mistake that you made, the Eigel, lakachti, I took, and I burned it in a fire, and I ground it up until it was fine like earth. And I threw it into the water that goes into the water source that was next to the mountain. Taveira, Massa, Kivros HaTa'avah, maktifim heisem es Adonai. And in Taveira, and in Massa, and in Kivros HaTa'avah, you angered Hashem. And when Hashem sent the Meraglim from Kadesh Barnea. What? What are you talking about? I'm sorry. You're in the middle of the Eigel story. You're literally in the middle of the Eigel story. You know how I know you're not done with the Eigel story? You know how I know you're in the middle of it? Because when this paragraph is done, again, same page 988, it says, which means carve, hew, H-E-W, hew for yourself 2 tablets of like the first ones and come back up to the mountain and make for yourself a wooden box, and we're going to have a new set of luchot because, you broke the first ones. So I'm still in the middle of the book. I'm still in the middle of the story of the luchos, of the tablets, and the Eigel HaZahav. And like for some reason, apropos nothing, in the middle of the story that he's talking about the Eigel, he's like, and also in Taveira you were bad, and in Massa Mariva you were bad, and Kivros HaTa'avah you were bad. It's like, but Moshe, you already told me that like in the beginning of Devarim. In the beginning of Devarim, did you not say? Let's do a little bit of Chazara for those of us who haven't been paying attention for the last several weeks. The book of Deuteronomy, the book of Devarim, are Moshe's words. It's his magnum opus, the last words he's going to say for 36 days before he dies. It's a 5-week speech about the Jews and how terrible and decrepit you are as a people. That seems to be the running thing. You've been terrible with God from the day that I knew you. And the book literally opens up. It says, these are the words that Moshe spoke to all the Jews on the other side of the Jordan River. In between these 7 geographical points. And all the Chazal point out, they're like, 7? Are you saying there were 7 times that the Jews got angered God? Because I recall there being actually 10. There were 10. Where are the other 3? So the Medrash says, well, there's 7 in the beginning of the book of Devarim, and the other 3 are to be found here in the middle of Parshas Eikev, where it says, Uve Taveira, Uve Massa, Uve Kivros HaTa'avah. Oh, boom! There are my missing 3. But I get it. Someone accidentally hit Control X. Someone inadvertently deleted 3 from the list of 10, and we'll just pop it in here in the middle of the discussion of the Eigel. No one will be the wiser. Come on. That doesn't make any sense. Not to mention the fact that it doesn't make so much sense that he's talking about the Eigel now anyway. Because again, we know all about the Eigel HaZahav from Parshas Kisisa midway through Shemos. We haven't forgotten about it, so it's very strange. So really right now, we're dealing with the following 2 questions. First question is, why are you retelling me the story of the Eigel? I don't need that. Second question is, within the story of the Eigel, for some reason you call like a timeout and you start telling me about some other times that you angered God, not counting the ones in the beginning of the book when I told you 70% of them, but here are the 30% that you forgot. Taveira, Massa, and Kivros HaTa'avah. That's a little strange. And then he continues, and he's like, and by the way, Hashem also wanted to destroy Aaron at that time. Hashem was going to destroy Aaron, but I prayed for Aaron, so he didn't kill him. And why? Why are you telling me that here? It's just so strange. Let me ask you a question. So Hashem, he sees the Eigel, the golden calf, and he says to Moshe, just get rid of these people. I'm going to destroy them, and I'm going to start a new nation with you. Like, it's going to be great. This is the move. I learned when I was a little yingale, when I was a little boy in this school, in fact, right here in Shek Hillel, in this elementary school, I was taught that Hashem swore that he would never destroy us. Didn't Hashem say that? Didn't Hashem say he's not going to destroy the Jewish people ever? Again, I know we're in for a few Holocausts in history. Every once in a while, the bush has to be a little bit, you gotta maintain, gotta prune the hedges. I understand that, right? God is a landscaper. I get it. But he can't kill us. So why is he saying to Moshe, he's like, I'm going to kill them and I'll make a new nation out of you. And Moshe's like, no. And Moshe stands in the way. Literally, Moshe stands in the way. If not for the fact that Moshe says to Hashem, this is in the Psukim, you can't get around this. Moshe says to him, which means if you're not going to listen to me, Hashem, he manipulates God. He's like, if you're not going to listen to me, then delete me from your book and make a new book. And God's like, no, I'm only going to wipe out people from my book, the ones who sin to me. But you, Moshe, I'm not going to do it. But fine, since you want me to not destroy the people, then I won't destroy the people. But that takes for granted that Hashem really was going to destroy the people. And like I said, I learned as a child that he's not allowed to do that. So does God take his word seriously or does God not take his word seriously? Doesn't Hashem only speak the emet, only the truth? Doesn't he only speak in the imperative? How could he go back against his word? It's so odd. It's just so strange. Now, there's a fascinating Targum Yonatan ben Uziel. Fascinating in Parshas Kisisa, again, back in Shemos, where we learned about this the first time, and it says as follows. Moshe says, Shuv mecharon apecha v'yinachem al hara le'amecha. Shuv mecharon apecha. Return from your anger. I mean, he's saying to God, he's like, God, calm down. Chill, God. You know, sometimes Hashem gets a little moody. Like, what can I say? He needs a Snickers bar. Like, he's a little bit, you know, calm down, God, tranquilo. Shuv mecharon apecha, v'hinachem al hara li'amecha. And reconsider the evil that you're going to do to your people, okay? Like, Hashem, you're overdoing it a little bit. Chill, sit down, tranquilo, have a seltzer, and everything will be good. That's what he says to Hashem. Now, the Targum Yonatan says like this. Hinachem al hara alamecha, shuv mecharon apecha is tuv mitekov rugzach. Tuv is shuv. It's the same in Aramaic and Hebrew. We're not going to go into that right now. Tuv mitekif rugzach. Return. Get down from your strength of your anger. Vehevi tohu kadamach al bishto demalilta lemebed la'amach. I'm going to read that again. Vehevi tohu kadamach, and let it be tohu before you, al bishta on the bad, dimalilt lemevad la'amach, that you said to do to your people. So in the Hebrew, in the original of the pasuk that ostensibly the Targum Yonatan is coming to translate, because remember the Targum is a translation, so he thinks he's translating the pasuk. The pasuk says v'hinachem al hara le'amecha, which, if you look in the stone, I think is to reconsider the evil done to your people. But maybe we should look it up, and I shouldn't quote them if, in fact, I'm not quoting them properly. So maybe let's, in fact, see. And pardon me for just a moment. Yeah, they respond. They say like this. Yeah, reconsider. I was right. Relent from your flaring anger and reconsider regarding the evil against your people. Okay. So the word v'hinachem means to reconsider. V'hinachem al hara al amecha. Reconsider the evil to your people. Okay, reconsider. How does the Targum Yonatan, how does he translate that pasuk? He says, Tuv mitikov rodzach v'yehevi tohu kadamach. And let it be tohu before you. Let it be tohu. Does tohu mean to reconsider? No, tohu doesn't mean to reconsider. Where have I heard that word before, the word tohu? Where have I heard? Oh, right, in the very beginning of the book. In the beginning of the book, in Bereshis, literally in Bereshis, Genesis all the way in the beginning, it's the second pasuk in the whole book. It says, V'ha'aretz haisa tohu vavohu, v'choshech al panei sahom v'ruach Elohim racheves al pnei hamayim. Tohu vavohu. Tohu vavohu. The land was null and void. It was tohu vavohu. So, the Targum Yonatan is saying, V'yehevi tohu kadamach habishta d'malelsa lemevad la'amach, which means hinachem al hara'ah, reconsider the evil, means make it null and void. Void the evil? Is that what he's saying? He's like, cancel the check, stamp it with a void. Just say reconsider. V'hinachem. Where's he getting this tohu business from? Strange. So let us take a moment now to go over our questions. We said number one, why is Moshe retelling the story of the golden calf? It's so random. It doesn't belong here. It's apropos nothing. Secondly, why in the middle of the story that's apropos nothing is Moshe telling you the other 3 times that belong in the list of 10 times that your fathers angered Hashem? And also that Aaron was going to be destroyed in that time, kind of as an aside. And also that then Moshe got a second set of luchos, except this time the Torah sees fit to tell you that he made a wooden box, which didn't tell you before. Aaron eats, which he conveniently forgot to tell you that in Parshas Kisisa, which is rather strange. Furthermore, how can Hashem really take seriously himself when he says to Moshe, I'm going to kill these people? I thought Hashem says he's not allowed to kill the people. He can kill a lot of them, but he can't kill all of them. So why does he feel like he can? And then finally, why is the Targum Yonatan translating V'hinachem al hara amecha to V'yei tohu kadamach al bishta d'malel lemevad la'amach? It should be tohu. It should be chaos. Like, what does that even mean? So, I want to tell you a little bit about how I grew up. Okay, so I grew up modern Orthodox in a glorious, magnificent modern Orthodox community in North Miami Beach, Florida, and like I would say 90% of people who consider themselves Modocs. We're not going to get into like the yeshivish and this and that right now. That's for a different time, for a different place. But the point is, most self-identifying modern Orthodox shuls the world around say a prayer on Shabbos, the special prayer called the Tfilah L'Shlom Hamdina, which means the prayer for the welfare of the state of Israel. Avinu Shabashamayim, Tzor Yisrael V'Galdo, Barechet Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Tzmichat Gulatenu. That one. You've been to a young Israel. You've heard the prayer. Beautiful prayer. Now, here's the thing that I always find funny about this prayer. It's really funny. By the way, it's not a particularly poetic or well-written prayer, but, Rabbanut, what can you do? But here's the funny part. There are 4 types of Jews, as far as I can tell. There's 4 types of Jews when it comes to this prayer. There are the Jews who will say, and by the way, I'm friends with all 4 of these guys. They're great. They're awesome guys, okay? They're like, please don't cast aspersions. Oh my God, they don't say, relax. There's the Jew who says, I would never say that Tefillah l'Shlom Hamdina. Are you crazy? Those Tzionim? You think I'm going to say a Tefillah HaKadosh Baruch Hu on those Zionists? They're Rishon Gemurim. They're not Shemesh Shabbos, and they have no chashivus for Taveira. I wouldn't be caught dead saying the Tefillah l'Shlom Hamdina. I would never go to a shul that says the Tefillah l'Shlom Hamdina. That's one guy. Then there's another guy. There's another guy who says, I would never go to a shul that does not say the Tefillah l'Shlom Hamdina. If I go to a shul and they're davening to Hashem and it's about to be Musaf, we're ending the Kriyas HaTorah, the laning, and they don't say the prayer for the state of Israel, I'm out the door, baby. I know both those people. They're really funny. They're often friends with each other, but as you can tell, they don't pray in the same place. Then there's a third guy who says, obviously I'm going to say the Tefillah l'Shlom Hamdina. However, the end of the first sentence is a little bit off-putting because it says, Barech es Medinas Yisrael Reshit Smichat Geulatenu. Now those three words are, they cause a little bit of a hullabaloo because Reshit Smichat Geulatenu means the beginning of the flowering of our salvation, which means essentially that you're calling the state of Israel, the modern state of Israel, the beginning of the Mashiach. Well, there are some people that will say, like, listen, man, I love the state of Israel. It's awesome. I love me some falafel. Going to the Kotel Friday night is pretty awesome. Singing those cowboy songs. But chill on this Mashiach talk, okay? Like, I'm not going to say Reishis Michas Gulasenu. So I have been in shuls in these United States where they say, Avinu Shabashamayim Tzor Yisrael V'Galo, Barech Es Medinas Yisrael. Period. And they leave out Reishis Michas Gulasenu. So we've got 3 so far. The guy who wouldn't be caught dead saying it, the guy who wouldn't be caught dead not saying it, and the guy who says it but leaves out those 3 words. And then the 4th Jew is the guy who doesn't pray. Okay, so like those are the 4 types of Jews that I'm familiar with as it pertains to the Tefillah l'Shlom Hamdina, the Reishis Michas Gulasenu, which is, it's hysterical. It's funny, you have to admit. It's beautiful. Because Jews, like, the little things matter to us, and the fact that we fight with each other over things that to other people would be seemingly insignificant, but to us it's like, what do you mean? How can I lie and not stand by something that I'm going to say in prayer? There is something I think rather honorable and glorious about it. But I would like to take an opportunity to use this to answer a question that one of my friends asked me this past week. So my friend Benna, he goes, Rabs, I don't understand. You said a few weeks ago that in the Sefer of Devarim, Moshe is telling the Jewish people what they can expect through the 3 different Jewish commonwealths. The 3 bios, the 3 comings that the Jews are going to do into the land of Israel. Bia Rishona, Bia Shnia, Bia Shlishes. The first entrance into the land of Israel being under Yehoshua. The second being with Ezra and Nechemiah when they come back in the Persian times to rebuild the second temple. And the third time being the time of Mashiach. So Benna says to me, he goes, Rabbi, I heard you say that. But also you also said to me that if the Jews aren't careful and they keep doing what they're doing right now to each other in the streets of Israel, this terrible, terrible thing that's happening to us socially that's ripping the country apart, you said that we could lose the country. Well, you can't have it both ways. You can't tell me that that Moshe is saying it's the 3rd commonwealth, it's Mashiach, and also that we could lose it because there is no 4th. It was a great question that he asked me. Beautiful question. I'm going to tell you the answer, and you're not going to like it. So, it all goes back to that Targum Yonatan and that very strange word, Tohu. We said, how could it be that Hashem looks at Moshe with a straight face? And it's like, Moshe, leave me alone. I'll destroy them. I'll blow them up. I'll make you into a new nation. It's like, I thought you're not allowed to kill all the Jews. I thought you can't do that. Here's the thing. He can, right? If Hashem destroys all the Jews except Moshe and makes Moshe into a great nation, you still got Jews, right? Because Moshe himself is in fact a descendant of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. which means that God's original promise, his OG oath to Zaidi Avi and to Grandpa Yitzi and to Pop-Up Jake, all of that is still on the books. Heref mimeni vash midem ve'eseh oschel l'goy gadol. When Hashem says, destroy these people, I'm going to destroy them and make you into a great nation, Hashem still speaks with utter MS, totally in the imperative. He can still have his oath. He can eat his cake and have it too, so to speak. So it would not be an undoing of the Jewish people for Hashem to blow up the Jews and start over. And Moshe says to Hashem, please don't do that. Don't do that. Instead, v'hinachem al hara ala amecha. Reconsider, as the Art Scroll translates, reconsider the evil to your people. But the Targum Yonatan over here says, v'yehi tohu, v'yehi tohu, let it be tohu. So let's understand what the Targum Yonatan is saying with that word. So let's go all the way back, like we mentioned. That word comes up for the very first time in the beginning of, literally in the beginning of everything. The second pasuk in the Torah, v'ha'aretz haisa tohu vavohu. The land, the earth was tohu and vohu. It was null and void. Null and void. Why is it not just null? That would have been not enough. It has to be void and null. What does tohu vavohu mean? Let's understand on a deeper level what tohu vavohu means. Chazal explain the word tohu means Adam Tohe al Havohu Shiv'a. That people, Tohu means to be astounded, to not understand, to have no inkling and no perspective on what it is that you're seeing. That's what Tohu means. Tohu means, it's not that it was, the land was void. Meaning if you would rewind a clock back 3,400,000,000 years ago and you looked at what we today call Earth, it was void. There was nothing there. Well, no, it was not nothing there. Right? The word tohu doesn't mean void. It just means there was nothing coherent there. There was nothing that if you had seen it, you would understand the context of what it is that you're seeing. For example, the things that you and I were taught about as the 7 continents, there's no 7 continents. You're the Pangea. There's just a big blob of dry earth. You're like, well, why is that there? Oh, it's there because it's going to split apart slowly at a meter a year. And then over the next couple billion years, you're going to have all these really, really cool continents. And then you can go and have a tour in Australia. So tohu means impossible to understand for the human. Vohu, the word vohu, it's 2 words. Look at the word in your mind. Vohu means bo-hu. Bo, in it, who, it is. In it, it is. Right? Very Yoda. Very Yoda. In it, it is. What does vohu mean? Vohu means, if you go outside right now and you look up at the sky and you see magnificent birds, so many different types of magnificent birds, and then you lower your eyes just a little bit and you see magnificent trees. And then you keep lowering your eyes and you see the ordinary humans. And then you lower your eyes even further and you see magnificent insects. See, none of that was there 600 million years ago. But tell me, where did the ants come from? When did Hashem take the ants from the galactic ant farm on the 3rd ring of Saturn and move them here? Well, obviously never. Meaning, the ants that you and I see and the birds that you and I see emerged from this earth, from the tohu vavohu, from the in it is. The in it is. In it is means everything that it will ultimately be is already latent in it right now. All of the ingredients to make Earth what it is in 2023 were on the Earth in 2023 BCE, weren't they? You don't think that all of a sudden there were new elements that popped out. Everything that the world has for us, all the things that we use, were always there. Everything that has emerged over time. And therefore, if you go all the way back to the beginning, if you rewind the geological clock to the beginning of time, to Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim es haaretz, ve'haaretz haisa tohu vavohu. So tohu vavohu is what you and I might call the primordial soup. It is essentially or what the Kabbalists might call klipa, shells, things that have to be gone through in order to get to the part that you want. That's tohu vavohu. In it is, but it's astounding. Meaning what Moshe is saying to Hashem, according to the Targum, is the Jews did the golden calf. That can't be denied. That can't be undone. That can't be pretended away. That can't be forgiven. It is what it is. You can't strike it from the record because it's there. You can't ignore the truth. And remember, Hashem is nothing but truth. Complete emet all the time. But just because Hashem is complete emet all the time doesn't mean that the emet has to go in a particular way to the fathers, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, with these people or without them. I can wipe them out and make a new nation out of you, and that will be the truth going forward. Alternatively, I can keep them extant, and the truth will go in a more circuitous fashion, but it will never be an undoing of that which is true. Meaning, history could go a lot of different ways. You and I like to think, well, God could never destroy the Jewish people. That's true, but that doesn't mean he can't buzz you all the way down to the nubbins. That doesn't mean he can't get you down to one guy, Moshe, and start over from one guy. Well, do you now understand? When Moshe asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu, put that in the Tohu, what he's saying is, the idea of the destruction of the people, you can't undo that they made a golden calf, but roll it into history. Don't take the straightest route to the best Jewish people by killing these people and starting over with the finest of them. Rather, take a longer arc through history and weed out the problems slowly so that they can mature as a people. Which means that now we understand why the Targum Yonatan says, V'yehi Tohu. Moshe's not saying, throw away what you said. You can't throw away what you said. God speaks in the imperative. But it could be part of a process that doesn't end that way. Instead of ending the Jewish people, don't end them. And you can still have your oath. That's the Tohu. So now we understand as follows. You know why Moshe is telling the Jewish people again about the Eigel HaZahav all of a sudden midway through Devarim? He's saying to them, you know, you're going to go into the land of Israel and Hashem's going to give it to you. And he's going to make unbelievable miracles for you. And all these massive giants and larger peoples and powerful things, they're all going to fall in front of you. And you might think, oh, great, I'm good. As my friend Simone said last week, he's like, I was born Jewish. I got the unlimited plan. And he's right. He's right. He does have the unlimited plan to an extent. You're unlimited in that no matter what you do, you'll never be un-Jewish. But that doesn't mean he won't throw you in an oven. I know it sounds harsh, but hello, it's the Torah. So, the reason that all of a sudden he's telling you here, he's saying, guys, you could lose it like that, and still Hashem will have history the way he wants it. It will not undo his promise to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov to buzz you right down. It really won't. And that's why there's a difference between the 7 and the 3. Because the 7 that Moshe spoke about in the beginning of the book of Devarim, Bamidbar ba'araval mosuf bein paranu vein tofa v'lavan b'chatziros v'dizahav, versus Taveira, Massa, and Kivros HaTa'avah, these are times that Hashem got angry. Maktsifim. So the pasuk over here says on page 998, Uvesaveira, uvemasa, uvekivros HaTa'avah, maktsifim heisem es Adonai. You angered Hashem. It wasn't just a sin. You made lots of sins, but it wasn't something that you should have been destroyed for. Whereas ketzef, which means frothiness, it's one of the names of anger. We're not going to go into that too deeply right now. The anger, the reason that Moshe is telling you that over here is the times that you could have been obliterated, geendig. And that's why Aaron comes up here too. And it says, Aaron, isanaf Hashem od lahashmido, v'aspalo gam ba'Aaron beisahi. And Hashem was going to undo Aaron. What, you think we couldn't have had a different Kohen? You think Aaron was the only possibility in the world of having a Kohen? Come on, come off it. So Moshe says, I had to pray so that God wouldn't destroy Aaron utterly. And I saved 2 sons out of 4. Nadav and Avihu, gone in history. Elazar and Isamar, that's what you got. Va'isa hivdal Hashem Shevet Levi. That's why over here in the pasuk tells you about Shevet Levi, meaning there's a restructuring of the people. Moshe, not God, Moshe restructured the Jewish people so that we might continue through history. Well, we're going to get, bloodied and bruised through history. But he saved us. He's the reason that we were able to continue, albeit in a different configuration than the original, which is why we need a second set of tablets. This is why all of a sudden we have this box that wasn't mentioned the first time. Again, now is not the time to go into that. Inkan makom laharich. But of course you understand that the first luchos, if they would have survived, would not have required a box. How do I know that's true? Because the Torah didn't tell you originally to make a box, and here it does. The Parshas Eikev is a restructuring of the Jewish people for history. So now let's go back, my friends. Now let's go back to our 4 Jews who quibble with themselves and each other about how we say the prayer for the state of Israel. Do we never say the prayer because there are a bunch of Zionists who don't care about Torah? Do we absolutely say the prayer because it's the greatest miracle on planet Earth and it's the beginning of our Mashiach? Do we say the prayer but remove the Mashiach because who are you to say that this is the beginning of Mashiach? Or do we not pray at all? Here's how I see it. Whether or not the modern state of Israel is Reshit Tzmichat Geulatenu, the beginning of the flowering of our salvation, has yet to be determined. It depends upon your actions. If we act a certain way, this will become the third commonwealth, the Bia Shlishes. This will flourish into Mashiach, in which case you can look retroactively at the naming of the modern state in 1948 as in fact and indeed Reshit Tzmichat Geulatenu. And tell me something. The ones who say Reshit Tzmichat Geulatenu, do you think for a second that if you act the way that Moshe tells you, Ki salid banim uvnei banim v'noshamtem ba'aretz v'ishchatem, do you think that God won't kick you out of the land and decimate it, and the modern state of Israel will be a puff of smoke in our cosmic history, another false start of Bar Kokhba proportions? You think that can happen? If you think that can happen, then my friend, I really suggest you read this book. If you've read it before, read it again in Karisa Lo Shanisa. Whether or not it's Reshit Tzmichat Geulatenu does not depend upon the Zionist Congress. It does not depend upon Bibi Netanyahu. It depends upon you and me to act a certain way to make it into what it could be, what it has the potential to be. Otherwise, it just gets rolled into the Tohu, trash bin of history, and it can happen in another 2,000 years of you sitting on the floor crying al Naharot Bavel on your Tisha B'Av. You think that can't happen? You're tripping. Which means the word that the Targum Yonatan said meant Tohu was V'hinachem al hara ala amecha. V'hinachem. Remember how we began the learning today? We said that last week's Parsha was consolation. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami. Nachamu, Nachamu. We said that using here, Nachamu, V'hinachem. That's the same word. So you're telling me that the word Nachamu means reconsider, but you're also telling me that the word Nachamu means console. Make up your mind. So, of course, the answer to this resides in a Rashi at the very, very beginning of the book, at the end of Parshas Bereshis. Rashi explains that the word Nachamu, the word Nechama, means to view a different way, to change the context of. The thing is still there, the person is still there, but the way that I view the person is different. That's what Nechama means. Nothing has changed except the color of my glasses. That's Nechama, which is what a consolation is. A consolation, it's not that you forget Zaidi. Chas v'shalom, it's like Zaidi died. Don't be sad he died. Don't be sad he died. You're not going to forget Zaidi. No, you remember Zaidi. But what you can do is you can experience a Nechama, which is, I'm no longer sad when I think about Zaidi. Now I can be happy and I can say, oh, I'm proud and I'm so happy. I have so much joy. Of course I miss him. Of course we miss those people that we lost, our loved ones. We miss them. But we're able to now reintegrate who they were into the world, despite the fact that the individual is no longer here. That's what a Nechama means. It means to think a different way. It means to see a different way. That's why when Moshe says, V'hinachem al hara ala amecha, see differently the context of these people. And instead of obliterating them and starting over from me, let them live and let it be a long process of, falling away with the chaff. That's V'hinachem. So now do you understand why we need Shiv'a de Nechemta? We need 7 of consolation? Because some people think that, oh yeah, we sat on the floor last week and I did a carb cleanse for 25 hours and now I'm good to go. Now we can have tuba of Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami, let's have some fun. Bro, you will continue sitting on the floor on Tisha B'Av and dancing at the matzah ball on Tu B'Av for the next 2,000 years. Because that's not what a Nechama is. A Nechama means to think differently. Who's the one who has to think differently? You. And it's in the words, because we read last week, it didn't say Nachamu Ami, it said Nachamu, Nachamu, which means think again, and then think again. You know why we need Shiv'a de Nechemta, 7 of consolation? Because we have to keep rethinking and re-seeing the context of how we see and think things. We think we've got Israel. Oh, good, it's ours now. Fool! We think we got the Torah, we're all religious, it's all good. Man, just don't get it. And that's what Moshe is telling us in Parshas Eikev. He's saying this is a great land. He gave you a great land. But if you think you can't lose it, if you think you can't retroactively undo the math, you think you can outsmart God, you'll be sitting on the floor for millennia. What's happening now in Israel is terrifying. terrifying. I'm not talking about it's a constitutional crisis or, well, it's silly, we need judicial reform. I've heard all the arguments on both sides. By the way, in my humble opinion, you're both absolutely right. Seriously. Like, I happen to agree with that. Maybe I'll do a podcast about that later. That's not the point. The point is as follows. You can be as right as you want. But if you read the Gemara in Gittin that talks about the second temples being destroyed when the Romans were at the gates, the reason it was destroyed is because they had enough food. They were self-sufficient for 21 years, said the Gemara. They had storehouses to last, to keep the invaders at bay for over 2 decades. I'm not Dan Carlin, but I don't think there's ever been a siege of 21 years in history. Because it just seems to me that would be overly arduous and expensive. The reason that sieges work is because you can choke a city so that they have to come out because in 2 months they're eating their shoes. And therefore you'll starve them out. That's the whole point of the siege. It wouldn't have worked on Jerusalem because they were self-sufficient for 21 years. So what happened? Simple. The infighting. People hated each other so much and wanted it one way that they burned the storehouses. And in an instant, you went from being, oh, we're good, to there's nothing to eat, we're all going to die. And sure enough, that's what happened. Now, when I read the news every single day, you know what I see? I see the burning of the storehouses. And you can tell me, you can jump up and down and shrai chai v'kayim about how you're right, and the other side is evil, and it has to be done this way, and this is an outrage, or that's an outrage, and this has to be done, and that has to be done. You're all right. You're all correct. Great. Kulam chachamim, kulam nevonim. You can burn the storehouses down and starve in your rightness. The land of Israel is a gift, and its potential is certainly to be the Bia Shlishis, to be the Mashiach. The potential is there, but the potential for a false start is also there, and we would do very good to remember that. Have an amazing Shabbos.